If you should decide to replace the front crank seal in your old Mercedes diesel, there's a number, I mean a large number of other things you should consider doing at the same time. And the reason is, you have to tear the whole front of the engine apart. You might as well do those other things while you have the radiator out, the fan, the clutch, you have all your belts out, you have all the hoses off, and that'll give you the access to replace a number of key things that always go wrong with these old diesels. And that's what I'm doing here with my 83240D. And I've got the seal ready to go back in. When I put that seal back in, before I put everything back together, I'm going to replace the following. You can see I've got everything on my cart here ready to go. Let me tell you, you just save a ton of work if you do all this at the same time once you have the radiator out. Of course, I'm going to replace both upper and lower radiator hoses because the coolant is drained. I'm going to replace the short hose. This goes to the thermostat housing, and this is often never replaced. So this is really important. And I'm going to change the thermostat. Even if you don't know how old the thermostat is, you can't believe how many problems I see if the car's not heating up properly because people never change their thermostats. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the power steering pump and replace the seal. That's also another real common leak area. You can reach in behind the pulley and feel around back there, and if it's wet with oil or grease, that means that you've got power steering fluid leaking out of the seal. So this kit will give you everything you need to replace it yourself. And once again, it's a lot easier now because all the belts are off and I can just remove the pump and put it back on. And once I get the pump back on, of course I'm going to have the engine ready to run, as I'm going to do a flush of the power steering fluid because a new filter is included in this pump kit. You want to get that old ATF out of the system. That's one of the reasons these steering boxes wear out, and get in the more modern power steering fluid that we have on our website, which is much better, and it really does extend the life of your steering gear box. Of course, this comes with a flush kit that you'll be able to hook up and flush the old power steering fluid out of the system as you pour the new one in. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I replace the thermostat, I'm going to install stainless steel bolts, because you know, those bolts always get corroded in those thermostat housings. But here's a couple other things that often get missed. Power steering, low pressure hose. These often deteriorate and leak, so I'm going to replace the hose. This is a low pressure hose in the power steering pump just before I do the flush. And then I'm going to reinforce the radiator neck, the plastic radiator neck. This is the upper neck that often breaks off. And I'm just going to not take the chance and replace it with my kit that will reinforce that upper neck with this copper tubing here. The water pump is something else you'll want to consider replacing when the radiator and all this is out. This water pump was recently replaced about 4 years ago, so I'm not going to replace it. But if you have no records of when yours has been replaced and it's loose, this should be a real tight, it shouldn't spin, see that? If yours spins, that means the seal's wearing out. Usually the seals go first and they start leaking. So just replace the water pump. It's so much easier to do it right now when all this other stuff has been removed. This is going to be a preventative measure, and that's I'm going to replace the voltage regulator on the alternator, just because I've got easier access now because the belts are off. The voltage regulator is one of those things that can really leave you stranded. They're not expensive. It's just better to replace them before they wear out. So that's just the things I'm going to do on the front of the engine before I bolt it all back together. This isn't everything I'm going to do on the engine. Because it's the day after Christmas and I'm feeling kind of generous, I've decided I'm going to put all these kits up for sale until January 3rd, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone.